One time when I was running a D&D summer camp, a 12-year-old asked me if he could play a fourth wall-breaking character. You know, they said, like Deadpool. As the dungeon master, I had concerns. The first of which was why a 12-year-old child was watching Deadpool. The second is that the kind of fourth wall breaks the child is describing is explicitly used for humor. Humor is fine. It's something that inevitably happens at most D&D tables, but it is a hell of a drug. If you intentionally turn to a humorous campaign, there is no going back. Every other player will be infected until there can be no serious drama to your fantasy dragon story game. This brings us to the third problem, a loss of the control normally wielded by the dungeon master. The parents, the board game store, and the rules of D&D insist that I maintain control over this table, so I cannot allow Deadpool to exist in this game. My fourth concern was one of metagaming. Metagaming is a dreaded term in the RPG world. There are many different definitions of metagaming, but it comes down to a verbal acknowledgement by the player during game time that their character is a piece of paper beholden by rules, a puppet which they control. This is taboo because it breaks the immersion of the game world. To admit that you are playing a game and admit that it is you who knows trolls are weak to fire even though your character should have no reason to know that as the troll gnaws down on their leg is blasphemy. The worst and most common and easiest infraction of metagaming is making an in-game decision using metagame knowledge. You do not need this renegade action because it is what your shepherd would do in this moment. You are doing this renegade action because you do every renegade action and you need a perfect renegade score with perfect war assets to get the perfect red ending. I play console and computer RPGs. I play tabletop RPGs. I have played live-action role-playing games, but will not be doing so for the foreseeable future. My first LARP character was an elf named Donnellan. He was very silly, but I was just dipping my toes in the water. When I emerged from the deep end after staffing gave me additional experience points to spend on my player character build, my second player character, named Cavender, was built to be a master of scrolls. This was because no other player used scrolls, meaning my character could be unique and I could effectively enter with a monopoly on these powerful magical items. This is a fully metagame decision. Cavender did not choose this for himself through a backstory I gave him. I started with the scroll idea and never fleshed out his backstory. He was a bad character. One time Cavender was with a party of other adventurers in a dungeon. A surprisingly elaborate setup of plywood painted like stone suspended from cables between trees and containing NPCs and traps. One such trap was represented by a fog machine. When activated, a staff member would voice from behind the plywood dungeon walls, "Poison effect! You fall into delirium. You no longer think you are yourself. Lasts until fog is lifted." As Cavender, I was bewildered, scrambling, unknowing of the magic that defined him. Another player walked up to me calmly. He said, without his typical Scottish dwarf character voice, "What if this is all a game, and we're just adults in the woods pretending to be elves and dwarves?" He couldn't contain his giggle. This was comedic. The staff member behind the wall chuckled, further breaking my immersion. It is exceptionally easy to metagame while LARPing. Because you are walking and talking as your character, there is little separation. Your character is hungry because you are hungry. Your character is tired and cranky because the staff thought it would be neat to wake you up with a goblin raid at 3 a.m. and demand you fight back in character. Your character is bad at swordplay because you have less hand-eye coordination than the foam sword-wielding staff member opposing you. The veil is thin here. The veil is thicker at the D&D table, where you can look down and see the many, or collectively enter the theater of the mind. The veil is thicker when you are reading a book. When House of Leaves starts messing with the formatting, it is disturbing because it does not follow the traditional use of printed prose. You are reminded that you are a reader holding a book. The medium is used as a weapon of horror against you, the victim. The veil is thicker in a movie you are watching. The Matrix would seldom be described as a horror movie, but the opening act is quite horrific. The movie itself does not ask you to question the reality of what you are seeing. That does not come around till The Matrix Resurrection. Funny Games is a horror movie. 2 horror movies, an original and a shot-for-shot remake for American sensibilities. It displays incredible violence and cruelty in a manner that asks the viewer to interrogate their relationship with violent media. Funny Games is being talked about in an upcoming episode of Sardonicast, my favorite film podcast. I have created D&D builds of the 3 Sardonicast hosts. Black Mirror Bandersnatch is a fourth wall-breaking piece of horror media that incorporates a choose-your-own-adventure module through the medium of Netflix. You use your mouse or a game controller to select the next part of the thing you are watching. You are made intimately aware that the thing you are watching is a thing, and you are encouraged to go back and play it again. It is a game that is a story about a game. The Thing is my favorite horror movie. It does not explicitly break the fourth wall, but it puts you in the same position as the human characters because neither they nor you know the identity of the thing that is trying to take on their persona for its own gain. The audience is forced to empathize with the paranoia of the characters. The Thing has inspired games of social deduction. I happily sold The Thing board game at my board game store and have implemented The Thing-like mechanics in my roleplay sessions. It is always effective. My players are always frightened while they are having fun. I always enjoy playing as The Thing. Cringe has become an overused word, and yet a soundly apt one. Cringe is the uncanny valley between normalcy and effective performance. If you do not land a joke or a high-concept presentation, your audience will cringe. I am constantly wondering if I am cringe, yet some of my best videos seem to be the ones where I embrace cringe. What, then, am I that walks through the valley of the uncanny? Flight is a drama film starring Denzel Washington. It has nothing to do with RPGs or the fourth wall. It was on my mind because of the rehearsal and because of overuse of the term crashing out. One day, when I was asking myself if I am crashing out, I silently determined to myself that yes, I am crashing out, but I'm going to land this plane upside down. I'm not sure if this is encouraging or horrifying. Recently, my friend offered a first draft of a Session 0 safety questionnaire for what he wanted to be an intense and personal horror experience. One question became quite personal about a past regret of the player, in this case me. I paused a while, but I gave an answer. Then I warned him that if he asked that kind of question, he needs to be prepared for what people write down. He retracted the question. The choose-your-own-adventure format is intimately intertwined with the pulp fantasy genre for which D&D is partly inspired by. Pulp Fiction is a movie that has nothing to do with Conan the Barbarian, but it's a good time to mention that I made a Quentin Tarantino movies ranked as D&D adventures video by request of a viewer in the comments. The viewer either never saw it or never commented after. That's fine. They owe me nothing. I owe them nothing. Everything is going to be okay. I would not show you a video without a happy ending, right? Please just keep watching. I promise I'm going somewhere. The Bandersnatch trick caught on as a gimmick for a while. YouTubers including Markiplier and Man-Carrying Thing have used this gimmick. Man-Carrying Thing is the newest addition to Sardonicast. He is a Fearbolg rogue. In The Thing, Kurt Russell's character is introduced playing chess against a computer. He loses. He destroys the computer with his drink. Perhaps this is the answer to AI. More whiskey. I have been trying to get back to basics as a dungeon master to ground my lofty ideas in a 3-year campaign that is now 17th level. One trick I employ to good effect is the 5-room dungeon. As a cheeky meta joke, I have stylized multiple videos by this 5-room style, including this one. That's what the chapter numbers are for, but maybe you figured it out already. I started with 2 because the first phase, the entrance or the guardian, you already passed by facing the algorithm and finding me. The second part is the puzzle. What is he doing here? The third part, this part, is the setback, in this case a labyrinth with no clear path. The fourth will be a boss battle, and the fifth will be a reward. Except that this video has no fifth room. There is only the fourth. What does that mean for you, the viewer? One time, my friend ran a Symbaroum game where the climax wound up being my character accidentally breaking free from the world of Symbaroum and finding her true self suddenly awakened in a spaceship, kinda like the Matrix, and I was Neo. But there was no setup for this. No one else was there with me, and I no longer knew what to do because I was this new character without a character sheet. I froze. I stammered to try to come up with some response to this cool situation my friend had put together, but I had no role to play. By shattering every other wall but retaining the fourth, he had condemned my Symbaroum character and myself as a player to a state of limbo. You should probably click away. This isn't going to get any better. The destination is not worth this journey. Keith David is an actor in The Thing. He does great voice work for shows such as Has Been Hotel and Rick and Morty. Are you getting uncomfortable? Is that what horror is supposed to make you do? By making you uncomfortable, am I making effective horror, or am I just being an edgy asshole pretending to be clever? Like funny games, Curse of Strahd has 2 editions. The second sanitized some questionable depictions and improved the packaging, all fine additions with the exception that the allegedly better book is now in paperback and the whole package is quite expensive. Neither is superior. Rick and Morty is highly fourth wall breaking. Creator Dan Harmon is clearly an RPG enjoyer with a show called Harmon Quest. I thought Harmon Quest was neat when I first watched the entire first season, but I soon realized that I hate the way they portray D&D. Is Dan doing this just for the comedy performance, or is this the way he always plays D&D? Last week, I was playing a character who I described as being faced with an abject choice of 2 books before him and rejecting both, and I cut the moment short by blurting out, "You see, it's an arc," just like a Dan Harmon character would. I immediately hated myself. I was struggling with the structure of this section of the video. I had too many thoughts, approximately 20, and no perfect way to arrange them, so I gave up on perfection. I made a roll table and rolled the next result, and moved the slides of the video into that random order. Bandersnatch is pandemic horror. While not intended, it captures the feeling of being in quarantine trapped with your media. Among Us is also pandemic horror. It is partly or mostly inspired by The Thing. The Pandemic board game has been around for a while, but sales skyrocketed at the start of quarantine. It gave players a sense of control over a worldwide catastrophe and made the event into a joke. The joke continued. Millions died. People stopped buying Pandemic from my board game store. It became too real. Psycho comes up on a list of possible fourth wall breaking horror films due to this shot. My channel started out wishing to answer fairly direct questions about D&D. I wanted to lift the veil of the DM screen between the players and a professional DM to share my experience so that others did not have their own RPG horror stories. TrueSight has since expanded to general TTRPG content as well as forays into dark fantasy and other media. I have a small channel with 0 aspirations of monetization. Often, when people would say to me, "Oh, so you're a YouTuber?" I would laugh and say something like, "No, more like a YouTube cosplayer." I consider a video worthwhile if it gets a mere 200 views, while 1,000 views is a big win. My last video to get 1,000 views is a video about role-playing race. I put a lot of work into it, a lot of good advice and thoughts bolstered by a 5-room dungeon structure and cover songs. At the end of the video, I sing a rendition of Brandi Carlile's The Story, which I translated into Cinder and Elvish and sang in one take despite my voice cracking. That epilogue is either the most poetic or the most cringe thing I have ever posted, but I stand by it. The video earned me 2,400 views and 55 subscribers and reinvigorated my drive to keep making more content. But my videos have fallen off since then. I haven't had another video break 1,000 views. My next serious project, which took weeks of work, was about Harry Potter and D&D, which got 400 views. Respectable, but unimpressive by my own metric, not near worth the effort and the hopes I put into it. My next serious project was supposed to come out in June, titled The Politics of Silly Voices. I have high hopes. I've done interviews and polls and drafted 2 different outlines. I am afraid to commit to the script for fear it will not be worthwhile. I am doing this for fun. After a quick thoughts video about the rehearsal got a surprising number of views, I doubled down on making content which commented on pop media with a D&D tip twist. My ballerina, Superman, and K-pop Demon Hunters videos did not break 100 views. Personal videos I had related to my experience, like my best D&D game ever as a player or why I quit my board game store job, fared similarly. YouTube tips recommended making personal content to establish a connection with the viewer, but it doesn't seem to be working for me. I am making a lot of content with quicker production times. Does that make this slop? I ask myself. No, I say to myself, slop would take less time and be less honest. You care about these topics earnestly, right? While I was feeling self-critical, I thought it would be a nice exercise to make a tier list retrospective of my own videos like I had seen bigger channels do. I recorded a 50-minute video which I uploaded but have not posted because I know that the self-indulgent experience would land an F tier by my own metric. My 5th best video ever according to my own ranking was a tongue-in-cheek video essay about Tumblr pirate drama paying tribute to YouTuber Sarah Zed. I am quite proud of it. It did not break 200 views. At some point, I took the YouTuber cosplayer thing to heart. I had a wacky idea for a top 10 bards video that would double as a tribute to Todd in the Shadows, a music critic YouTuber who I am a fan of, but who is far beyond my RPG niche. I made 4 YouTube shorts where I impersonated different video essayists while making their D&D builds, and then I compiled them into a video that has the most views of any video since Role-Playing Race. I did the same with Sardonicast, and didn't break 100 views. I really like playing as these other YouTubers, or at least their public personas, I think because it lets me play a role rather than figuring out my own voice. I like wearing my influences on my sleeve when I create D&D adventures and TTRPG plots because that is more reliable than trying to make something truly original and falling short because nothing is truly original. I have increased my use of mechanics like roll tables and tools like the 5-room dungeon and found these methods combined with the veiled pop culture art theft to be much more efficient than anything I was doing before. What makes my reconstructed Frankenstein art different from an AI dungeon master? What makes my borrowed amalgamation of a persona any different from the thing? I don't know where to go from here. My videos often end in a list of key takeaways, but the video itself doesn't give hardline answers because I want to encourage critical thinking and your agency, just as I encourage my role-playing friends to engage with their character and the world. I don't know where to go from here, so I'm going to let you choose. What's on your mind?